She has the lovely long curly red hair. So Laoighseach is going to stay outside the door for 20 minutes just to continue welcoming people. So I'm going to open the workshop on behalf of the both of us. And I'm just going to say a few things about our ideas behind the event and what we kind of hope to achieve today. So Laoighseach and I are both PhD students here in the University of Galway. I'm at the English department looking at 21st century novels addressing ecological crisis and climate change. Laoighseach is with na Gaeilge, the Irish department, looking at representations of ecology in Irish language poetry. So we're both humanities scholars. So the idea for this workshop came when we met about 6 months ago to talk about our shared research interests. So we both research representations of the environment, but we ended up talking about how to apply our ecological lens to our actual work processes. I'm sure this is a common thought amongst environmental researchers. You know, we might be talking about climate action or environmental justice or sustainability, but sometimes our research aims cause us to maybe have to travel a lot or use energy intensive equipment or high levels of computing. So we can often be quite aware of the contradictions between what we research and how we research it. So we thought it'd be interesting to have an event around this topic. And one of the things we really want to emphasize is that we think decarbonising research needs to be a collective endeavour. So, you know, individual shame and guilt is no good. Individual action is often limited and it probably won't get the changes we need as quickly and as drastically as we need them. So we need to figure out a way to kind of do this across all disciplines and kind of all stages or levels of research. So a lot of thinking around
just that one there.
Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah, no, that's perfect. So a lot of our thinking around this topic is influenced by this group, the low carbon methods. They're in the reading list that we sent out to you before today. So it's just it's a network of scholars that started in Canada and they've since spread further afield. And they've been thinking about decarbonising research in universities for a number of years now. And they tend to emphasise embedding equity and environmental justice in transitions for researchers. So for example, they think about how aspects like career stage and socioeconomic factors influence how people can decarbonize their research. So for example, they might think about how it might be more difficult for a student or an early career researcher to decarbonize their work because they might be limited by funding or resources, and they might need to travel for different conferences and things in order to network and establish themselves in a particular field. So if we're thinking collectively about decarbonising research, we think equity is quite an important consideration. Some of my thinking on it as well is that we're probably going to have to decarbonise our research processes anyway quite soon, because climate action is kind of growing across all levels of society. So policies might come in that kind of limit travel and purchasing. So we might as well as researchers kind of be proactive about it and try and shape the transition in a way that works for all of us. So we're hoping one of the outcomes of this workshop is going to be a brief summary of our findings that we'll send to the University Sustainability Officer, Sustainability Working Group, Buildings Office, and we've been talking to some people in these offices who are willing to receive the findings. So what we want to do today is map some of the challenges of decarbonising research and also think about some of maybe the possibilities in terms of collaboration or transformation of work cultures and work practices that might come about from the decarbonisation agenda. So one of the transformations could be increased interdisciplinary work. So a lot of university sustainability strategies emphasise the value of interdisciplinary and transdisciplinary work for sustainability. But interdisciplinary work can be a bit tough. You know, it is a skill because you need to have a shared language, shared understanding, shared goals and agendas. So one of the ideas behind this event is that in thinking about the materiality of our research processes, we might learn a bit more about how scholars in other disciplines work, because it'll get us talking in very basic terms and in basic language about just our day-to-day activities, our basic assumptions and basic approaches to different problems. So that can be quite conducive to interdisciplinary conversations. So we'll be doing some of that work today, and hopefully we'll get to hear about a range of research processes from labs, archives, people's desks to fieldwork sites and online spaces. We have quite an interdisciplinary group of participants today, both in person and online. So people from physics, maths, medicine to English, Irish studies and more. So we're hoping that everybody can kind of be patient with each other, but also curious with each other. So, you know, ask about stuff you don't understand. Don't be afraid to repeat yourself. Don't be afraid to kind of talk speculatively around something, even if you don't feel like you have the specialist language or knowledge around it. It's all part of the process. So yeah, we hope everyone can enjoy the day, learn a little something and contribute in whatever way they can. And we're aware that some of you might already be having these conversations around decarbonising research. So we do welcome knowledge and insights around work that's already being done in Galway or elsewhere. So that's kind of my little introduction to the day. Before I go any further, I want to say a massive thank you to our hosts and funders for today. So they are the Moore Institute for Research in the Humanities and Social Sciences, the Insight SFI Research Centre for Data Analytics, and the Irish Humanities Alliance. So the Moore Institute and Insight Centre kindly provided us with funding so that we could have a tea break with some pastries, and which will be happening at 11:15 in about 2 hours, and lunch at 1:30. And the Moore Institute also provided funding so that we could run today as a hybrid conference. So we do have some online participants joining us today. Hello to you all. You're very welcome. So we're delighted with that. And our online participants, you'll be able to type questions and comments throughout the day. And we hope you do that as much as you want. And Laoighseach is going to be managing the online portion of today. So she'll be able to read out your questions and comments at different intervals. We just want to flag as well that we're recording the sessions today. But if you don't want to be recorded, that's no problem. And you could maybe let us know before you make a contribution or give a presentation, we can stop the recording. And we also request permission to take some photos. If you don't want your photo taken or want a photo deleted, that's also no problem. You can let us know. I feel like that is it for now. I do want to say as well, thank you to Cormac Staunton for doing our technical support today. Really appreciate it. Thanks a million to our speakers, and thanks to yourselves for coming. I'm really looking forward to the conversations. So yeah, so I guess without further ado, we might as well kick off the actual day. So the day is going to be a mix of small group work and invited presentations. So we're going to have our first opening presentation now from Dr. Vincent Carragher. So I'll just, if you want, Vincent, I'll introduce you in a second, and then I'll invite you up. So for all of our speakers today, we said they could either give like a polished kind of research-based presentation, or they could just give some speculative ideas or personal reflections from the field or talking points. So it's up to themselves whatever way they wanted to go. So our first speaker today, Dr. Vincent Carragher. So Dr. Vincent is a research fellow in the Office of the Deputy President and Registrar and the School of Engineering and Informatics, University of Galway. He has extensive research and teaching expertise in resource management, carbon management and energy management, as well as in green transitions. He has worked with communities, schools and small businesses to measure their resource consumption and then develop solutions to reduce it. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to say, Vincent.
This one. Why won't it go to full screen?
Yeah, so that's okay.
It hasn't.
Just do different things.
Yeah, no, that's but it's not going out in Zoom that way. Anyway, look, we'll see what we can do. Is that it? That's it. Now it's going to tell me. There we go. Okay.
Thank you.
You? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi everybody. So I'm Vincent Carragher and I work in School of Engineering. As you've heard, I suppose the last 20 years plus has been devoted to decarbonising groups and individuals, helping, supporting people. Today I was asked to just give some ideas on the method, and it really, I mean, you've heard about the materiality of what you do in terms of research, but what decides that is the design, the ideation initially. And I suppose early researchers are working on research already, so they may not have full input into the design of the research. So, but if you do, I think design is key, and it's up to you what where you sit with that is. This isn't moving.
Click on.
Sorry.
Yeah, no bother. There you go.
What do I hit to move it?
Where is it? Hang on, it's not moving out here though. What's going on? What's going on here?
They will not stop us decarbonizing. When we're finished, we will be low emissions.
Is that the one? That's the one.
Okay.
Down, there you go.
Super. So there's a whole raft of policy that you'll know about that's shaping what society does. Here you can see 50% improvement in this sector in energy efficiency required by 2030. I don't need to read through that. There's rafts of it. The Climate Action Plan 2019, 2021, and so on. Then we have our own responses to that in the University of Galway, our own strategy and policy. The broader picture of the Sustainable Development Goals, very important, all 17, and I might refer to those again, but this is about, I suppose this is about you. Here we have some of the stuff that's happening in college, meeting that 50% energy efficiency target, bettering it, you know, kind of a near zero carbon scope 1 and 2, you know, achievement required. So buildings are very busy, buildings and estates here, in trying to shape what we do and support it. A number of things here mentioned in terms of our 300 kilowatts of solar PV that we've already installed, and an extra contribution of 500 to 2030 required. The LED lighting across campus, you know, the wood pellet boiler, a new biomass boiler going to be installed. Various things going on that are impressive, and the like of Michael Curran and his staff really supporting. But we do know that the challenge is massive, and you can see here bottom left what a 10-meter diameter sphere looks like in 2010, and that's full of CO2. It basically weighs 1 ton because CO2 is a gas. In 2010, New York City, with a single day's CO2 emissions, buries its Empire State Building totally in these spheres, just in terms of 1 day's emissions. You can see that we have an ability to talk as humans. We're social animals, but maybe we talk a little too much. These gentlemen may have arrived a little late for climate change. And today, what I will touch off, I mean, our carbon intensity was never greater on this planet. Decarbonisation is absolutely essential. Researchers in, I suppose, as you look at it, should be a great place to start, but a very difficult cohort because we're knee deep and very focused in the work we do. Our head is elsewhere. It's in our research. And unless the scope and design of our research initially directs us to sustainability, that's initially before we start the actual piece of research, the materiality and the method, well, then we're lost to some extent. So government are trying to, in terms of all its recent plans, government are trying to leave nobody behind. And I think we don't want to get left behind as researchers, and there may be a danger of that. We have a room here, we have our online presence, but we really must be conscious of the fact that we are very skilled at focusing, drilling down, you know, and solving problems. And if those problems are outside of energy efficiency and renewables and so on, well, then we're lost to sustainability to some extent. So it's a difficult challenge coming in, being asked to do this. So I've just hit on a number of slides coming up, and hopefully they cast some light on, I suppose, what I think, or where you might go, or where you might not go. We'll see. I touch off the greenhouse gas analysis in the college by Jamie Goggins. I touch off procurement, green labs. Those are some things that are going on in this area that you should know about before you start talking, really. And then it's research method and research design, which or both. Here you have our greenhouse gas analysis. I have a link at the bottom. It's worthwhile keeping an eye on this because these are figures to 2019. Given COVID, there's likely to be a report out once college now has been repopulated and so on and so forth. Energy use is back. We can check as to what, you know, kind of a previous, a relevant year. Here you can see that heating, transport and electricity, although you mightn't think that, are only 20% of the greenhouse gas emissions picture of this campus. 20%. 80% of our impact lies outside the heating in this room, the electricity and the transport of the staff. These are the transport vehicles that belong to the college, not yours. So these are the college emissions. Heating, transport, electricity, it's only 20%. And outside, when we looked at the procurement figures, that is all that's purchased by staff in the college. That's the rest of the emissions. There are 36 categories that staff purchase under, and of those, 5 of them account for 95% of the cost to the college. So 5 categories of our consumption are costly, but they're also costly in terms of emissions. They account for, bottom right here, 54% of the emissions. So over half of the 80% of the emissions are related to these 5 categories here: construction sector, electrical and optical equipment. So you've got your laptops and PCs in here. You've got your educational goods and pulp, paper, printing and publishing. And it's you know, it's very important just to realize that these 20% emissions at the top, scope 1 and 2 emissions, are what most industry and business talk about. But what we're looking at as academics in college with the greenhouse gas analysis is the deeper impact, all of the consequences of our purchases, the embodied energy of the paper that comes to campus, so on and so forth. So just to be aware that there are those impacts. One of the initiatives on college, which is in college is impressive, is that Curram and the SFI Research Centre have joined and are the first in Europe to become to be awarded, in fact, the Green Lab certification. It has a number of elements, and just some of those elements, for instance, are related to green chemistry. A freezer challenge. So you can imagine cold storage. There's a huge energy impact on a laboratory in terms of its cold storage, and the habits around that cold storage, and the appropriate temperatures that various freezers and fridges should be kept at to save energy, while still conserving and preserving what's inside. And there are various schemes here that you can see. I don't want to labor it. It's a very good scheme, and that's ongoing in college, and it's about method. It's about what we do in the laboratories. So identifying and implementing opportunities. You're looking at the usual suspects. People look at heating, lighting, office equipment, maybe your transport within your research, data centers, the storage of your data, paper, fridges and freezers, and so on. Behavior change is critical, and your impact on your colleagues could be exceptional. In projects that I work on frequently, we would reduce energy use by 36%. A project we worked on in Greece years ago, we helped reduce energy use in a community, in a village, by 63%. That was the most we had achieved on behavior change. But behavior change is it can have a massive impact. Here, here we have the ecological footprint work that I do. Bottom right, you can see that what you normally see is a carbon footprint, a carbon audit. On top of the ankle, this community, city, is releasing emissions. The ecological footprint is what I'm more interested in. The carbon footprint is good, but the ecological footprint goes one further. It looks at the amount of land on this planet that it is required to absorb those emissions. And because we only have a finite surface area on the planet, it's limiting. So we only have a certain amount of space each. It's about 1.8 global hectares. So when you think about that figure, there's 1.8 global hectares of space on this planet. A hectare is 2.5 acres, just to demystify it. So 1.8 global hectares is just an area of space that each of you have. This is the average Irish consumption here, based on figures from 80 settlements, footprinted settlements. I won't talk about this on the bottom right. I just want to reflect more on top right and top left and here. This is closer to what you're doing as individuals than any of the other charts. The food footprint is about half of your carbon intensity, your food footprint. Your waste footprint is about 0.89 global hectares, but you only have 1.8 global hectares of space on the planet. and your waste habits are already half of that. And there's no guilt there. Mine are the same. I'm just trying to elaborate this and define it. Please don't think that I'm pointing a finger at anyone. That's not my way. I'm just trying to. So energy is about, again, a little more than half of what you have. Car transport, and so you can see across the habits you have at home, domestic habits, energy, water is very small, but energy, waste, food, and car transport are high. Now, if we go top right, this is a community that we worked on and reduced energy use by 28%. A whole settlement of about 1,800 people, 1,900 people in Tipperary. And we reduced the footprint to 2.7 global hectares, not 1.8, not what we would really like to get down to, but 2.7 global hectares, top right. And their food footprint was 1 global hectare, weight, you can see energy, and you can see car. At that point in time, we had factored in the air travel consequences. Our footprint that we have built is a conservative estimate of the impacts of these individuals. We never exaggerated it. That would be a bad idea, to start exaggerating things. Top left here, I work with the eco-village in Cloughjordan. Some of you might have heard of it. It's probably Ireland's only eco-village of its scale. There are close to 60 households now on it, maybe 120, 130 people living there. I'll show you some pictures of it shortly. Their energy footprint compared to something closer to ours in this room, probably a fifth of it. Their waste footprint close to a third. Their food footprint is less than half. And their car transport, interestingly, is higher. They transplanted, so that's the good news. We're performing well there. They transplanted to Tipperary from satellite cities like Dublin and so on, so that professionally they need to travel more than most because they've gone kind of towards the Midlands of Ireland. So the reasons for this, the reasons for food, the reasons for waste, and the reasons for energy, as we surveillance of them, talking with them, workshops, we found out that there are three bins. There are 3 households per set of bins, as opposed to 3 bins per household, which we mostly have around our housing estates, green, blue, and red, whatever colours. You have 3 for yourself, for your own home. They just get 3 bins and have 3 households to that. So they're setting up an infrastructure, if you like, and there's a design in it. There's an ideation initially. What is enough? When is enough enough? Their food footprint, they grow, and they have someone growing for them and so on, so their food footprint is well lower. And their transport, they restrict the motor car, and they have electric cars, cycling, and various other things, but they're still high on that. So they're trying, but and in terms of their energy, they have a district heating system, wood chip district heating system. So again, early ideation, early design, set the infrastructure low carbon. It's much easier to decarbonize thereafter. This is the eco-village set on a road, an original road in Cloughjordan. This is a 63-acre farm, and now it's an eco-village. Planning permission for 120 houses, 60 inhabitants at the moment, 60 built. You can see the structures here. Strawberry house over here. Wood facade house here, timber frame, some timber frame, solid mass construction as well, but all very different, but highly efficient. Decarbonizing all through those in different ways, those buildings. Here's the district heating system, the boilers, the wood chip boilers, here's the solar array, and there's the farm. So that infrastructure, the early ideation, the planning, the early design, the planning of this helps them. So while most people believe the eco-villages are unique and unusual, in fact, my research learning is that also it's about their design, structure, and infrastructure. It's not just about the fact that they are the way they are, wanting to conserve, wanting to, what they would see as save the planet. Do many of you have an energy saving feature on your computer? I'm asking in the room. Do many of you have an energy saving feature? Could you put your hands up if you think you do? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hands out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we have about 3/4 of you think you have an energy saving feature on your computer.
Vincent, hang on one sec. Just because you're kind of walking around there a bit, let me just for our Zoomers,
Okay,
clip that there to you.
apologies. So the 3/4 of you who say that you have this energy saving feature on your computer, is it active? Could you raise your hands if it's active? So 2, and this is important, 2, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 1/6 of you have it active, right? Whereas 3/4 of you saying you have it. And this is typical of the work I do. We find that, so the initial question was, does your computer have an energy saving feature? And about half of the people don't know. In this room, 25% of people didn't answer just. And then as I move on, of those people who said yes, less than half of them don't know if it's active. In this room, about 3/4 of us don't know if our energy saving feature on our computer is active. And that is my inclination coming in. You remember I said that researchers are a difficult cohort. We have a challenge. You're so busy in your research, you're not really thinking about the energy efficiency of your computer. Let's face it. Energy saving is poorly activated. Awareness is a necessary but insufficient requirement. And so here's one of the issues we have as well. Everyone has this, not just researchers. At home, 94% of people turn off their lights in this study. How many of those people would you say do it at work? Any guesses? How many of the 94%? All of them more? What? What less? Give me some figures. What? 20%. Don't be shy. 20%. Thank you for going out there, out on a limb. And anyone else? 40%. Anyone else? 50. Okay. Be of little faith. 66% of people do it at work. And then 85% turn off their computer. How many do that at work? Now you feel a little bit easier because you can see which way the figures are going. What would you guess? 53%. So it's a bit like the lotto. So 64% of people frequently recycle, but just 16% of that do that at work. And the last one, 54% consider green when buying. How many would do that at work? 33%. So what's happening at work?
It's someone else's responsibility.
One.
Infrastructure is different as well.
Who said that? Sorry, I was looking at it, all the mouths not moving, and I didn't see it. I didn't see you say it. Sorry. I think so. I think there's barriers at work that we don't have at home. We work it out at home, and so when you're a researcher, also, if you can figure that, if you consider that, if you're a researcher, and it's difficult at work, where does that leave you? Because you just don't have the time for this stuff, right? I just have 2 minutes. So that's going to be very energy efficient. I'll be rushing on here. So in terms of design, the early design in a building and the handover of a building to its researchers and occupants is critical. And it's something. I don't know if any of you have ever been handed over a room or a building. No one I've ever met has been. They're a rare breed. How you use this building efficiently. Come on, lads, let's see what the lights are. Let's see what to do here. Let's see. It doesn't happen. So while you talk today about method and the materiality of what you do inside that vessel of research, there's also the scope, design, the structure, the infrastructure that's important. So in terms of decarbonisation, I'm suggesting, in terms of our strategy, can we as a university be the first to mandate that each school commits to a minimum of 25% of its research projects, that is new projects, focusing on decarbonisation or sustainability by the end of 2025, so that all new research is protected against what we have to fight. And by 2030, that this figure would be 75%. This could be reviewed at this stage if we got to 2025 and we had 20% or 30 or 40%, depending on success. But we need to get this right for our method. The University of Galway has various aims, achieving net zero emissions by 2050. And what I'm kind of leading to is that what better place to start than to decarbonise our ideation our research scope and design, and then look at our methods. In fact, all of that defines our methods. And funders should demand that. So if you're ideally working on this notion and you're high level enough, your research and your research proposal writing should endeavour to include sustainability and decarbonisation. Your heads of school should be directing that. Each of you have a head of school, and you can, after this event today, meet that head of school, and you can discuss with them the future policy and strategy of your school, and that it should be decarbonised, and it should help you with your method in the future, because currently you'll know it's not helping. So those are my thoughts for the day, and to try to seed some of your conversations that it's beyond method, that the method is defined by the early work in the proposal writing, and that if you are writing a proposal, please tag SDGs to it as a last point. Tag the SDGs to every deliverable and task you have. You will be educating government. You'll be educating those in your school. You'll be educating anyone who reads your proposal, even those that don't fund you. Do it. Okay. Thanks.
Thanks a million, Vincent. That was fantastic. Thank you. We really appreciate that. I think we are moving on to the next section, but I do think we'll take maybe one or two questions, because I think we can make up the time later, because we might as well. Does anybody have any questions or comments at this stage? And I might open it to our online audience first. So Laoiseach, I wonder, is there anyone online who has a question or comment that they'd like to kind of raise at this point? Yeah, fair.
Everyone's a bit shy.
No, fair enough. And I want to say also, I hope our online audience can hear properly. And if at any point you can't hear, if you're online listening, like please put in a comment and we'll try and sort that out for you. So we have a question over here, do we? So I'm going to bring the mic over so that everyone can hear properly.
So I work in a laboratory, and in terms of buying things, procurement would be our the obstacle that we would have to get over first to buy green. How do you think we could improve things in University of Galway for that?
We've recently got funding. There's some help on the way. We have a funding to help from the EPA. We have funding. It's a 3-year project. We're working to build better procurement in the college, so the choices that you will see. So you might have a cost, and the idea is that we're not there yet. So if you have a cost for something, that it's got a carbon cost beside it, and you can compare purchases.
That'd be excellent. Yeah.
Various things like that. Just as I was saying earlier, like as researchers, you're very busy and your head is elsewhere. And if there's something quick like that, there'd be no better to sort it.
Yeah, I find suppliers are greenwashing all the time. Yeah. We ask them, like, I want to buy a sustainable product, like a sustainable tube or something that's less impactful on the environment. And all you get back is, what do you mean by that? Be more specific. What are you talking about? You know, so.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. Standardization isn't something we do very well. So, but we're working on it. And our tool, when we develop it, it's a tool for procurers to buy and to decarbonize. It'll be tested in 4 local authorities and at university here. So people like yourself hopefully can test it and
be happy to.
Yeah, and that may ensure it's better. You know, it should.
Thank you.
Yeah, Thanks a million.
So we have an online question here from Paul Costello. What is the biggest hurdle to more energy efficient use of buildings on campus, i.e. computers, lights, heating, etc.?
I think, like, if I have to point at it in the presentation, it's literally it's in terms of using the building, not just the laptop. It's handing over that building to the occupiers and doing it. Like, there's quite a rotation of researchers. So we have a situation where there might be, in 3 years' time or 4 years' time, a whole new cohort, or at the very least it's changing. So the handover is difficult. And I've done staff induction in the college, and energy efficiency and decarbonisation is a low priority. It's about safety of staff and other things. So we're fighting that fight. Recently, the college has been awarded the gold award in the STARS in a STARS assessment, which is from the United States of America. So we were very pleased with that, and it's putting us in the right direction. It's helping us to do better next time we apply for STARS, which is in 3 years' time. And those type of things that this person is asking about, we're all the time at that game and trying to build behind the scenes. So
Thanks. Brilliant. Did you have a question?
I did.
Yeah.
Actually. Following on from the greenwashing question, it occurs to me that we're reliant on a lot of trust with suppliers, for instance. If they say they're green, well, what's the standard by which, do we know that they're actually offsetting rather than actually, taking all the measures before you embark on offsetting? So, built into that revision of the whole supplier model and procurement process, can we be watchdogs of that? And if we spot that there's something that they're not as green as they could be, for instance, is there a measure built into that development to improve on it all the time?
Hopefully that these are great questions. Really, the toolkit that we're building with your input in the testing of it will make sure that these type of that there's that type of safety net. And I think if you have, there's so much low-hanging fruit at the moment in terms of procurement. It could be in terms of decarbonizing it could be done so much better. We know that. So what we have to start directing the market properly and let them know that there's this challenge and we want these efficient products, carbon efficient products. And then after that, I think standardization should kick in. Like now that the market needs to standardize, it will start to standardize. So I think rather than getting the market to standardize before they see a need to do it, if we put the need in, which is we're not buying that stuff. We've got suppliers here that are far better with the toolkit. We can see what's out there. I think that's the way to do it, to lead them, to catalyze their action, to standardize, because we don't do standardization very well.
I see you have a question. Laoiseach, is there anyone else online who has a question? No. Perfect. So you might be the last question, and then we'll have to move on.
Thank you for the presentation. My name is Shweta. I'm doing PhD at Insight Center. So you were talking about the eco village. I wanted to ask, how much of the energy is coming from sustainable energy resources, like renewable energy? Like you were showing us solar rooftop. So how much percentage of energy is coming from clean source?
Yes. So the district heating system, their heating for the hot water and heating their buildings is all renewable. It comes from wood chip and it's locally sourced. The pumps and the power for that is coming from a green utility, so it's wind and it's renewables. The power for their lighting is coming from a green utility as well, so it's probably 80% green in terms of, you can't always have wind, so there's a mix. So they're doing as much as they can in terms of the district heating boilers, the suppliers, energy, lighting, heating, and then all the food, which was half the footprint, as you could see, of the average Irish person. They're really doing a lot on food. I mean, they're growing their own. They're getting their hands dirty, and they're taking lots of courses. And by the way, especially while you're studying, and it might be nice for a weekend or for a couple of days in the week to visit. They have a hostel stroke hotel. It's nice. They're on site, a small building, ecologically built, and it's well worth a visit. It's inspirational. The people are all passionate, so it's always good to meet passionate people.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, so that was brilliant. Thanks again, Vincent. So we're going to move on to the next portion of the day. So the next portion, we're going to get into small groups. So I'm going to ask if people could get into groups of maybe 4, 5, or 6, whatever is convenient. And we're not going to use